Okay, this video is going to do a quick review of placing ICs in a breadboard. You don't think you would have to go over that, but I know working with students in last year or two that sometimes this ends up being a problem. Sorry, getting my 82 out of the way so I have a good picture. So you see TTL ICs. We know that pin 1 is in the top left-hand corner. As long as we follow this divot, that's going to indicate that. And when we orient the ICs on the board, we definitely want pin 1 on the top left-hand corner, and that is based on the power banana jacks for input power being at the top. So first off, that's the way you want to orient them. These ICs are already in. Let me pull one out to do that. So let's demonstrate pulling it out, sort of a little backwards, but we'll give that a shot. So I might have mentioned this before, shown this before. I just have this real small flathead screwdriver. There is a device called an IC remover, but these work just as well, if not better. And make sure you have power off. We have power off the board. I guess I can sort of look at my meter since I have it hooked up here at the bottom of the board, and I can see I have 0 volts, but I can see my bench power supply saying that too. So we're just going to wedge this in here just a little bit on the back, and we're going to wiggle it just a little. We're not trying to get it the whole way out. Then we're going to move it to the other side, and once again we're going to wedge it under the front and do a little bit of turning, and you'll see it comes pretty loose. At that point I can pick that IC up and take it out. Now to put it in, first thing, if it's a new IC, we're going to turn this over and take a look at it. And if I look at it sideways, if the pins look like they're bent in a decent shape, almost like 90 degrees but not quite, we're okay. Sometimes when these are new, they come and they're galled out a little bit more than what we can, and they won't fit in the board right. So what we'll do, we'll do this on a flat surface, but I'll demonstrate it here. You'll take this sideways and just very gently push it over a little bit to bend the pins flat. Turn it over to the other side and do this once again on a hard flat surface. This isn't a good example of what's there. And bend those pins that are there just so they're in a little bit, because when they're new they have a tendency to gall out a little bit and they don't fit in the board very nicely. Look at all the pins, make sure they're lined up, none are bent. Make sure you have the orientation right, and I'm going to put it in a very specific place, and get the pin started on both sides. Don't have it hanging way out at an angle over here, but get the pin started in both sides. Look at all the leads very carefully to make sure they're sitting where they are. And by the way, I'm using this screwdriver, but I definitely have the power off. I wouldn't want to do that with power on. But make sure they're all there, and just take your finger and press down on it until it's snug on the board, and everything should work okay. You don't want to bend 1 or 2 pins over while you're trying to push them in, and you shouldn't have any problems doing that. And I think that's all the things that I've ever seen. Now remember, use the flathead screwdriver or the real tool to do it. Don't try and get it out with your fingers. When you try and nudge that and do it, you might get it out, but 1 time out of 10 it's going to flip around on you and jam into your fingers and damage them, and it's going to really hurt because they're not needle points, which would be better. These are a little bit bigger than that, and it really hurts and draw some blood too until you're done. So make sure the orientation is correct. All these ICs are in the right orientation, because when you count pins you want them all to be the same way. Push them into the breadboard. You're going to straddle this little channel here, and that's meant where the ICs go. They don't fit right in anywhere else. You'll start shorting pins out if you put them anywhere else. You're going to have to connect the VCC into ground pins once you get it in, and you can see that happening here with the little jumper. Just so happens this part number has VCC, on the top right and ground on the bottom left, and that's usually the case but not always, so remember to always check that in the data sheet. And we know how to remove it, and that's pretty much what we wanted to cover. So hopefully you'll be able to get your ICs in and out without any damage and without bending any pins, and also do it rather quickly. All right, we'll talk to you again in the near future.